Hello everyone. Today's poem is 冰风吃箫, Bin Wind from the Book of Songs. And this poem is one of the very, very few poems in the Book of Songs that could be confirmed in the history book. And most unique of this poem is it was confirmed by one of the 5 classic books, 赏书. So in the 赏书, or in English, the book is a collection of articles and speeches made in the very, very ancient time, and part of them is from the Zhou dynasty. And basically, the Book of Songs was written in the Zhou dynasty. So there is an article so-called as 金藤. It has the word that 公乃为师以夷王明之月吃宵王以未敢烧功. So the poem, this poem 吃宵 was clearly recorded and confirmed by this article. So the background story thus is very clear to us as well. So this is written by the most famous, the Duke of Zhou, Zhou Wengong, because we know it from this poem. From the article 金藤. And the background story is when the king Wu just died, the Duke of Zhou, Zhou Gong, he takes the control of the whole country on behalf of the very young king, who was so-called as Cheng Wang, or the king of Cheng. And thus a huge rumor spread around that the Duke of Zhou might rebel, or he will be the king by himself. So it's a huge rumor all the time. And thus, because of this, the Duke of Zhou, he moved out of the capital city to some places in the east. So it was recorded as 周公之东. So remember this is a very key word in the Chinese history, 周公之东. So he just hid away. But anyhow, the rumors were still there, right? And later on, some other people rebelled. And the Duke of Zhou was so worried about the country. And also, he cannot hide away for any longer, because he wants to consolidate with the king, and thus they can fight back with the rebellion together. And thus the Duke of Zhou wrote this poem, 吃宵. So this is a very clearly recorded in the article 金藤 in 赏书 in the books. So just one more thing. In the ancient China, even till some several hundred years before, the 5 classics is the most important books all the time. And among the 5 classic books, the Book of Songs and the 赏书, in China, if I translate hard, 赏书 means the royal book, is the most 2 key books all the time in the Chinese history. So a lot of times you will hear the word 诗书. So in this, when we mention very simply 诗书, 诗 refers to the Book of Songs, and which we are talking, we are exploring in my videos. And the other is 赏书. So the 书, the books refers to the royal books. Poem 吃枭 is also the very first poem or the ancestor of a type of poetry, which was so called as 咏物诗. So the poem is sort of the song for an object. Could be an object, physical objects, could be a bird, could be an animal, a cicada, whatsoever. So in this poem, it's about a bird. 吃枭 is the owl, like in the picture. So today, the Chinese normally treat it as a bird of evil because it's going out in the nighttime, and the sound sometimes is not very nicely received by humans, the sound of this bird, the owls. And from the characters, the two characters, 吃枭, we can have a very wild guess based on these two characters in the ancient time. 吃 composed of two radicals. So one is the bird, so it tells us something of the bird. And the 吃, the other part, the left part, refers to the ancestor's temple, the house of a family. So this related the birds with the living of humans. So these birds coexist, or co-lived with the house or the humans. And the 枭, the other part is how it normally refers, the sound is strong and long and it's not pleasant. So that's how. So sometimes when people crying, we can also call them 嚎, which means the sound is not pleasant and it's so loud and so long. So from these two characters, we can have some of the idea, the images in the Zhou dynasty, in the Zhou people, that this bird very likely is not a good bird because the sound, and it's lived or it's lived in around or in the same house with human as well. So it's a bird quite familiar to the Zhou people. Let's finish about the poetry type, 咏物诗. So the main purpose of the 咏物诗 is, in the surface, is a song for a bird, for insects, for a plant. But in fact, the poet take himself as that bird normally. So he tried to use that bird, that insect, that plant to express his own feelings. So that's how this poetry type comes. So in Chinese, we call this writing technique as 托物言志. So we borrowed, on behalf of an object, or we make use of an object to express our own feelings. 托物言志. So that's this poem about. So, and also we know from the history book that this poem is quite clear in a very dangerous situation, and the Duke of Zhou was suspected by the king, and he wanted to use this poem to express his own feelings. I'm a loyal person. I'm so faithful to my king, and in this very dangerous circumstances, I want to be a helping hand, and let us work together, fight together to restore the order of the Zhou dynasty. So basically that's the purpose of this poem. And let's see how the Duke of Zhou to express these subtle feelings. Okay, the first paragraph. 吃宵吃宵，既取我子，无毁我室。The owl, the bird of owl, the owl, as far as you have taken my sons, don't take down my house. 恩斯勤斯，予子之闵斯。So I do so many favors to you, to my sons. I work so hard for you, for my sons. And now the sadness of brought up as kid is so huge. Why the sadness is so huge? Because his son was taken by the owl. So the first paragraph actually tells us very clearly the poet himself, he didn't take himself as the owl. He take himself as something else. The owl, the 猫头鹰, is the enemy. He takes the sons. He killed the sons of the poet. And furthermore, the owl want to destroy the family, the house, the building of his family. So in the Zhou dynasty, the character Shi in most time is very clearly, it's not the normal sense of a house. It refers to the ancestors' temple, and that's the foundation of a state, of a country. So whenever you start a state, start a country, you build the ancestors' temple first, and then you build the house for family 1, family 2, family 3. So you have so many families, and then you make a state. And with that state, with the ancestor temple of that state, all the people, they are consolidated, and they have the same goal, has the common interest. And then based on that state, they take the whole country, and then a kingdom was founded. So the ancestor temple is the first thing first, and it's the very, very foundation of a family, for a state, and finally for a kingdom, for a country. So the first paragraph tells us very clearly that whole country, the Zhou dynasty, was in danger, and some of their sons was killed, which means the royal blood was killed. The brothers of the Duke of Zhou was killed or was destroyed. And in the real history, the two brothers of the Duke of Zhou, actually they are not killed by the enemy, but they just rebelled, and they joined the enemy. So in the sense of the Zhou king, of the Duke of Zhou, that man actually was killed by the enemy. So it's a lost, right? No matter they lost their lives or they lost the two brothers to their enemies, it's a total loss. So that's how the poem expressed. 既取我子, you have taken two my brothers. And the last sentence tells us that before the Zhou dynasty brought up all the two brothers so diligently, so nicely, and with love, 恩斯, with love, with favor. But now it's a sadness. 予子 means to feed the kid with kanki. Still cannot eat solid food, so the kid was fed by milk or by the kanki. Okay, let's go to the second paragraph. 鸮天之未阴雨，彻彼桑土，绸缪牖户. So before the raining comes, we would do the field work, and also we will repair and fix the windows and doors. 今如下民，或敢侮辱. And today, the people under you, they even can dare to insult me. So there's a lot of things in this second paragraph, but actually it's not so hard. So the first thing he's telling about the things you need to do before the raining means there's a danger in front of us. Some people rebelled and they want to take down our country, but still it's not still far from our eyesight. It still take maybe many months to happen, but we need to prepare for that. Not until they come to our eyesight with troops, it's too late. So that's the meaning. Because the rain here refers some of the disasters. So before the disaster is dropping upon us, we need to do our work, to do the farming work in the field, because when it's raining, you cannot do those works. And also, we need to protect our house. We need to fix the doors. We need to fix and repair our windows to prevent the raining heavy storm to destroy or to damage our house. And 今如下民, so be careful here. 女, today we read as 女 means female, a girl, but in that time it's 如, it read as 如 and means you. So this poem has three persons so far. First thing first, the all, the 吃枭, right? The enemy. So the enemy is one party, and the poet, of course, is one party. The poet is the Duke of Zhou, and 你, most likely we think it refers to the King of Zhou, King Cheng. So because this poem was the poem to the king, right? So in this poem, when the poet was writing you, that's the king, right? So it's a sort of the complaining. I am the most senior officer in this country, and I'm doing all the works on behalf of my king. And today, someone even dare to insult me. So what a disorder today. We need to do something, my lord, my king. So this is basically the second paragraph. Okay, the third paragraph. 予手拮据，予所捋荼，予所蓄租，予口卒瘏，曰予未有家室。曰予未有室家. Okay, so long sentences, all starting I. Yu means I. So it's an Asian term to as 我. Today in modern Mandarin we call it 我. 予手拮据. My hands was humble of materials. So normally the hand means you take hold of something, and the 拮据 means actually you have nothing to take hold of. And today we still use this word 拮据 to refer that you are lack of money and you are not well in your own economy, in your finance whatsoever. So you are lacking of money. And of course, in that time, it's not referring to the money, but still it refers to the wealth. He lack of wealth. And I'm taking the bitter grass. So why he was put on his hand on the bitter grass? That's the food. He don't have good food. So it's all referring he was living a poor life. He lack of the wealth at the moment. 予所蓄租 and all I have in my warehouse. All I have is I'm sick. 予口卒瘏. Finally, I'm sick with my mouth, which means he don't have anything to eat. So which means he was in a really, really poor life in the moment. And finally, I found out, 月余未有家室, I found out, or someone said, you don't have your family, you don't have your ancestors' temples. So what does it mean, finally? So the first 4 sentences basically telling the same thing. He was lead a very, very poor life for the moment, and he was sick. The Duke of Zhou, he was sick. And why? Because he don't have the ancestor temple. So the way we have shared how the importance of ancestor temple it was. So the Zhou people started with the ancestor temple of the royal family. And when the royal family take all the land of the country, he will allocate those land to his sub-families. So like the Duke of Zhou. So the Duke of Zhou is a subsidiary family of the royal family. And when they have the land, the first thing first, they build a smaller ancestor temple for the land of the Duke of Zhou. This ancestor temple on this land represents the interest of Duke of Zhou, represents the common interest who lived on this piece of land. And in the third paragraph, the Duke of Zhou complained, I worked so hard for the country, but my king, my lord, you didn't take care of me well, because you even don't give me a piece of land with that land so I can have my own ancestor's temple. So this is a most serious complaining in that time. And that's the third paragraph about. 予羽谯谯, 予尾翛翛, 予室翘翘. My feather was broken. My tail was broken either. And my house was broken as well. So this is all the complaining by the Duke of Zhou. And the first 2 sentences compared himself as a bird. So that's why we call this poem as 咏物诗, because the main characteristic of a 咏物诗is the poet compared or paralleled himself as a bird, an insect, or a plant, a flower, sort of things. So in the 4th paragraph, the Duke of Zhou compared himself as a bird, not the owl, another type of bird. But what type of bird, we don't know. Maybe the Zhou people know it. And So he said, I'm a bird now, and my feather was all broken because of some of the disasters. My enemies attacked me, or a fire. I went through a fire, all kinds of things. I have some of the disasters. And my tail was broken as well. So I'm really in a very, very poor status. And my house was broken as well. So not only myself, my house, my family was all in a very, very poor status. 风雨所飘摇 Let's continue. 风雨所飘摇 予维音哓哓 So the wind, the rains is coming, and it was blowing and shaking all the things. So it's a very, very bad situation, right? Because in the history background, we know that the rebellions claims that the Duke of Zhou is not a good guy. But anyhow, they rebelled finally, and the whole country was in a great danger. So that's this sentence refers. That's the rains and the big wind refers. The whole country was in danger. Everybody was shaken and waved from one side to one side. 予维音哓哓 So the Duke of Zhou was really in a very, very poor status, and his physical condition is poor. He lack of wealth. He was insulted by a lot of people. He was suspected by the king. So that's so poor and so bad by all means. But in the last sentence, he expressed his feelings, his emotions. Only my voice is strong and loud. So he has nothing but strong and loud voice. So what does the voice mean? The voice, today, most of the Chinese don't know what the voice means, but in the ancient philosophy, the voice is from the heart, and it's the reflection of the heart, of the feelings. So what kind of the heart you have, what kind of a feeling you have, it was reflected by your sound. So in this poem, the Duke of Zhou said, I only have voice. Anyhow, my voice is strong, is loud. So why he said strong and loud? Because the first sentence, 吃枭, 吃枭, we have analyzed this bird may be famous by its loud and strong voice. And 吃枭, the owl, represents the enemy in this poem. So the last sentence is a respond sentence to the first sentence. Our enemy, the wall, has a strong and loud voice, which means the bird is so strong and so big. But I'm so faithful. I have a stronger voice. I have a much louder voice. I'm much stronger than our enemy. I'm much bigger than our enemy. Even I'm in such a poor status, I'm so faithful that I would defeat the enemies. So this is an oath to the king. And this is a reveal of his feelings to the king as well. So I'm with you, my lord, my king, and I have the confidence I would defeat our enemy. Don't worry. So in the real history, the king received this poem, and he didn't buy in the idea of this Duke of Zhou. He didn't trust the Duke of Zhou still. And some times passed, something happened, and finally the king believed the Duke of Zhou, and the two consolidated together. So they work together, defeat the rebellions finally, and they killed their rebelled brother finally, and make the Zhou country restore the order again. So that's the real history. So just a poem, even with such a touching and true feelings, is still not enough. The king received this poem and still don't believe. And so that's the real history. Okay, that's for today. Bye-bye.